The Judgment. The blue and green planet called Earth had changed much by the year 2157. Tall buildings reached for the sky in every major city. Flying vehicles zipped between them. Space stations orbited above. Humans had even built small colonies on Mars and the Moon. After centuries of fighting among themselves, the people of Earth had finally united under one government. They called it the United Earth Government, or UEG for short. Captain William Hayes stood on the bridge of his ship, the Defiance. He was a tall man with short brown hair and deep blue eyes that had seen much in his 40 years of life. The ship hummed around him as it traveled through space faster than light, heading toward a meeting that would change human history forever. "Captain, we're approaching Proxima Centauri 4, said his pilot, Lisa Johnson. Her hands moved quickly over the glowing controls. William nodded. "Slow us down, standard approach pattern." The Defiance was the pride of Earth's small but growing fleet. Humans had only started traveling beyond their solar system 15 years ago. In that time, they had built colonies on 3 planets around nearby stars. They had also met many alien species. Some were friendly, others were not. But all of them seemed to follow rules set by something called the Galactic Council. Now that same council had called Earth's leaders to a meeting. No one knew why. "They're sending docking instructions," said Communications Officer Paul Garcia. He was young, only 25, with dark eyes that showed his worry. William took a deep breath. "Follow their instructions, and tell Admiral Cooper we're arriving." The ship slowed and approached a massive space station orbiting the 4th planet of the Proxima Centauri system. The station looked like a giant wheel spinning slowly in space. It was made of materials humans had never seen before, with sections that seemed to shift and change as they watched. When the Defiance docked, William led a small team to meet Admiral Susan Cooper, Earth's main diplomat. She was waiting in a large hallway with walls that glowed with soft light. "Captain Hayes," she said with a tight smile. She was a short woman with gray hair cut close to her head. Her uniform was decorated with medals from her years of service. "I'm glad you're here. The council representatives are waiting." "Do we know what they want?" William asked as they walked down the hallway. Susan shook her head. "No, but I don't think it's good news." They entered a massive round room. 7 strange beings sat in tall chairs around the edge, looking down at the humans. Each one was from a different alien species. The Ardani looked almost human, except for their purple skin and large all-black eyes. They could read minds and speak without words. The Zorians were made of living crystal that changed colors as they moved or felt different emotions. The Vox Collective were clouds of gas held together by energy fields, speaking with voices that seemed to come from everywhere at once. The other 4 species were just as strange. William had read about them all, but seeing them in person made his heart beat faster. In the center of the room stood a single platform where the humans were directed to stand. "Representatives of Earth," said the Ardani leader named Zixtra. His voice somehow appeared directly in William's mind. "We have watched your species since you first left your solar system. We have come to a decision about your place in the galactic community." Susan stepped forward. "The people of Earth are honored to be recognized by the Galactic Council. We come in peace and friendship." A low rumble came from the crystal being. "Peace? Your history is filled with war. Your first instinct when meeting new life forms has been to point weapons at them." "That's not fair," William said before he could stop himself. "We've made peaceful contact with many species." "Only when you felt safe," said the gas cloud being. "When threatened, you become dangerous and unpredictable." The Ardani raised a hand for silence. "We have studied your development. In just 200 years, you have gone from simple ground vehicles to faster-than-light travel. Your weapons technology advances even faster than your peaceful tools. You are too unpredictable, too dangerous to be allowed free movement among the stars." Susan's face paled. "What are you saying?" "The Council's decision is final," Zixtra announced. "Humanity is to be confined to your home solar system. All colonies beyond must be abandoned within 1 Earth year. Any human ships found beyond your system after that time will be destroyed. Any attempt to develop technology to break this quarantine will be met with immediate action." William stepped forward, anger rising in his chest. You can't do this. We have rights. Those colonies have thousands of people living on them. The decision is final, repeated the Ardani. Humans lack the temperament for peaceful coexistence. You are quarantined to your home system for the safety of all other species. Susan tried to argue, but the council members turned their backs one by one. The meeting was over. The journey back to Earth was quiet and tense. When they arrived, William and Susan had to report to the UEG Council in the underground headquarters beneath what was once called Colorado. The room erupted in shouts when they shared the news. This is an outrage. We can't abandon our colonies. Who do they think they are? President Jack Davis finally called for order. He was an older man with kind eyes and a strong voice that had led Earth through many crises. We need to think carefully, he said. These council species have technology far beyond ours. If we fight them directly, we will lose. So, we just give up? Asked General Maria Rivera, her dark eyes flashing with anger. No, said a voice from the back of the room. Everyone turned to see Director Catherine Powell of Earth Intelligence walking toward the table. She was a thin woman with short red hair and eyes that missed nothing. We appear to comply, she said. We bring our people home. We show the council what they expect to see, a defeated humanity accepting its punishment. And then what? William asked. Catherine's smile was cold. They've underestimated us. They think they know humans from studying our history, but they've missed the most important lesson of that history. Which is? President Davis asked. When cornered, humans don't just fight back. We change the rules of the game entirely. She placed a small device on the table that projected images of plans and schematics. I've been preparing for something like this since we first met alien life. I have a plan. William looked at the images and felt a spark of hope for the first time since the council's judgment. They've given us a year, Catherine continued. 1 year to bring our people home, yes, but also 1 year to prepare, 1 year to begin our real work. President Davis studied her for a long moment, then nodded. Very well, Director Powell. Tell us about this plan of yours. As Catherine began to speak, William knew that humanity's future had changed forever. The council thought they had sentenced humanity to exile and slow decline. They didn't understand that humans had always performed best when challenged, when pushed to their limits. The council had just made the biggest mistake in their long history. They had given humanity a reason to unite completely, a common enemy to fight against, and, most dangerous of all, time to prepare. The exile had begun, but it would not end as the council expected. Not at all. The silent years, 10 years passed since the Galactic Council forced humans to return to their solar system. From the outside, it seemed Earth had accepted its punishment. The colonies around distant stars were abandoned. The ships came home. The exploration stopped. But this was only what the Council could see. During these 10 years, Earth changed in ways the aliens never imagined. They called these the silent years, but they were not quiet at all. They were filled with the sounds of building, planning, and preparing. Director Catherine Powell stood in a massive underground factory beneath the old Rocky Mountains. Now 57 years old, her red hair had turned gray, but her eyes remained sharp and clear. She watched as workers built ships unlike any seen before. How many can we complete this month? She asked the man beside her. Chief Engineer Richard Martinez smiled proudly. 15 more shadow drive ships will be ready. He was a short man, with quick hands and a mind that never stopped working. 10 years ago, he had been a young scientist with wild ideas. Now he was the creator of humanity's greatest weapon. Show me the latest tests, Catherine said. Richard led her to a small room where screens showed space around Jupiter. Watch this area, he pointed to empty space. Suddenly, a ship appeared where nothing had been before. The shadow drive bends, light and energy around the ship. It also hides the heat and radiation from the engines. The Council's sensors see nothing. Catherine nodded. And they can travel faster than light? Twice as fast as anything the Council has, Richard confirmed. We learned from their technology, then improved it. In another part of the facility, Commander John Wilson trained soldiers in a large room designed to have no gravity. The men and women floated and fought using special moves he had created. John was tall and strong, with a serious face that rarely smiled. He had spent the last decade studying how to fight each alien species of the Council. The Ardani are telepathic, but they can't read minds through certain metals, he told his troops. Your helmets are lined with that metal. The Zorians look tough, but hit them with sonic weapons and their crystal bodies will crack. The Vox Collective can be contained by magnetic fields. Every soldier memorized the weaknesses of all 7 Council species. They trained with weapons designed specifically for each alien type. Meanwhile, on the moon, giant underground farms grew food without sunlight. Mary Sullivan walked through rows of plants that glowed with soft blue light. She had been a normal farmer on Earth before the exile. Now she led the program that would feed humanity during the coming war. These plants grow 5 times faster than normal ones, she explained to visitors from Earth, and they need very little water or soil. We can feed twice Earth's population with farms like this on the Moon and Mars. The visitors looked impressed. One of them, Admiral Susan Cooper, asked, "And the Council hasn't detected any of this?" Mary shook her head. Everything is deep underground. The surface looks exactly as it did 10 years ago. In labs across Earth, scientists like Dr. Elizabeth Wright studied everything known about the Council species. Elizabeth was small with kind eyes that hid a brilliant mind. She had been the first human to learn 7 alien languages. The Council isn't as united as they want us to believe, she told Catherine during a secure meeting. The Ardani and Zorians have fought 3 wars in their past. The Vox Collective was once enslaved by the Zorians. These old wounds can be reopened. Catherine smiled. Good. We'll use that when the time comes. In orbit around Earth, space stations that looked empty from the outside were actually filled with activity. Here, George Chen developed new materials for ship armor and weapons. He was a businessman who had owned factories before the exile. Now he worked for Earth's survival. This nanomaterial can absorb energy weapon hits, he explained to Captain William Hayes during an inspection. He held up a small square of material that looked like black cloth. The Council relies on energy weapons. This will make our ships much harder to damage. William, now 50 years old but still fit and strong, nodded in approval. How much can you make? Enough for 300 ships by next month, George answered. The Council sent inspection ships to the solar system twice each year. They scanned Earth, the Moon, and Mars, looking for signs of rule breaking. They never found any evidence because all the real work happened where they couldn't see it. Sometimes Council ships would stop and speak with Earth officials. Captain William Hayes often met with them as Earth's representative. Your people seem to have adjusted well to the quarantine, a Zorian official said during one such meeting. William smiled politely. We've accepted our place. Earth is our home, after all. The Zorian's crystal body flickered with colors that showed satisfaction. It is good to see humans learning wisdom. After 10 years of this careful deception, the plan was nearly ready. The ships were built. The soldiers were trained. The weapons were tested, the food supplies were stored. Everything waited for the signal to begin. On the 10th anniversary of humanity's sentence, Catherine Powell stood before the United Earth Defense Council in their underground meeting room. Her gray hair was pulled back tightly and her eyes scanned the faces of Earth's leaders. 10 years ago, the Council thought they were sentencing us to a slow death, she said. They believed that confined to one solar system, humanity would use up its resources, fall into fighting among ourselves, and eventually fade away. They were wrong. She pressed a button, and the wall behind her lit up with images of the hidden fleet, the moon bases, the new weapons, and all the other secret projects. For 10 years, we have obeyed their rules while preparing for this moment. We've learned their weaknesses. We've improved their technology. We've built a force they cannot imagine. President Alan Russell, who had replaced Jack Davis 5 years earlier, stood up. Is it time? Catherine nodded. The Shadow Fleet is ready. Our soldiers are ready. Our intelligence on Council worlds is complete. Project Ascendance can begin. Tomorrow. The room was silent for a moment as everyone realized what this meant. They were about to challenge the rulers of the galaxy. If they failed, humanity would likely be destroyed completely. "We've planned for this moment for 10 years, Catherine reminded them. "The Council's defenses are weakest now. They believe we've accepted our fate. The element of surprise is our greatest weapon." President Russell looked around the room at the other leaders. One by one, they nodded their agreement. "Very well," he said. "Send the order. Project Ascendance begins at dawn." As the meeting ended, William Hayes found Catherine in the hallway. 10 years of waiting, he said quietly. "Do you think we're ready?" Catherine's face showed no doubt. "They gave us a choice between slow extinction or fighting back. It's no choice at all. Humanity has never backed down from a challenge, and we won't start now." Tomorrow, the silent years would end. The stars would hear from humanity again, and this time the message would be very different. First strike, the space around Proxima Centauri seemed empty and quiet. The small monitoring station that orbited the fourth planet had only 30 aliens working inside it. Half of them were Ardani, with their purple skin and black eyes. The others were a mix of council species. Their job was simple: watch the nearby human solar system and report any unusual activity. For 10 years, they had seen nothing important to report. Captain Laura Miller stood on the bridge of her ship, the Vengeance. No one could see her ship because it was hidden by the shadow drive. 2 other ships, the Defiant and the Inevitable, were also invisible nearby. All 3 waited for the signal to attack. Laura was 40 years old with short blonde hair and green eyes that missed nothing. She had trained for this moment for 10 years. Every person on her ship had also trained for years, learning the weaknesses of each alien species and how to fight them. "All systems ready, Captain," said her first, Officer Frank Rodriguez. He was a tall man with dark hair who had once been a pilot before the exile. Laura nodded. "Remember, we take the station intact. We need its communication equipment." "Shadow drives disengaging in 3, 2, 1, said the weapons officer. Suddenly, 3 human ships appeared where nothing had been before. They surrounded the alien station before the aliens even knew they were there. Inside the station, alarms began to sound. The Ardani commander rushed to the control room. "What is happening?" he demanded. "Human ships," said a Zorian officer, his crystal body flashing with surprise. 3 of them. They appeared out of nowhere. "Impossible," said the commander. "The humans are confined to their system. Send a warning to the council immediately." But before they could send any message, the humans struck. Special teams in spacesuits attached to the station's outer hull. They cut through at key points and entered the station. Lieutenant Daniel Freeman led the boarding team. He was young but skilled, with quick reflexes and steady hands. His first target was the communication room. "Take them alive if possible," he told his team through their helmet comms. "But the mission comes first." They moved through the station quickly, using stun weapons that knocked aliens unconscious without killing them. When they reached the communication room, Daniel set up special devices that blocked all outgoing signals. "Communication center secured," he reported to Captain Miller. "They didn't get a message out." On the bridge of the Vengeance, Laura smiled. "Good work. Finish securing the station." Within 3 hours, the humans controlled the entire station. Not a single alien had been killed, though many were unconscious or locked in secure rooms. The humans had practiced this attack many times in simulations, and it had worked perfectly in reality. Laura walked through the captured station with her security team. She entered the main control room where several alien prisoners were being held. The Ardani commander glared at her with his black eyes. "This is an act of war," he said. "The Council will destroy your species for this." Laura looked at him calmly. "The Council already sentenced us to a slow death 10 years ago. We're just refusing to accept that sentence." She turned to Daniel. "Make sure all prisoners are treated well. Give them food and medical care if needed. I want them to see that humans aren't the monsters the Council claims we are." Daniel nodded. "Yes, Captain." Laura addressed the prisoners again. "This is just the beginning. You will be treated humanely, unlike how you treated us. Take note of human mercy. It's in limited supply these days. While the Proxima Centauri station was being captured, similar attacks happened in 3 other star systems at the exact same time. Earth was reclaiming its abandoned colonies on Tau Ceti, Epsilon Eridani b, and Leuten's star. These were the planets humans had settled before the exile. Now they were taking them back. Admiral Joseph Parker had planned these attacks from his command center on Earth. He was an older man with gray hair and a strategic mind that could see 10 moves ahead. His plan was working perfectly. Strike secondary, targets first, and avoid direct confrontation with Council strongholds. All 4 targets secured with minimal resistance, reported his aide after receiving messages from all the attack teams. No Council alerts were sent. We have complete surprise. Joseph nodded with satisfaction. Begin Phase 2. Move in the colonization ships. Large ships carrying thousands of human colonists were waiting at the edge of the solar system. Now they moved toward the newly captured planets, ready to rebuild the colonies that had been abandoned 10 years ago. Back on Earth, President Alan Russell prepared to address humanity. He stood in front of cameras in a large room deep underground. His gray hair was neatly combed and his blue suit was perfectly pressed. He looked calm, but inside he felt the weight of his responsibility. The future of humanity depended on what happened in the next few days. My fellow humans, he began, today marks a new chapter in our history. For 10 years we have lived under the unjust sentence of the Galactic Council. We were confined to our solar system, cut off from the stars that are our birthright. Today, that confinement ends. The president explained the successful operations to retake the human colonies. He did not mention the shadow drives or the other secret technologies. Those would remain hidden for now. We do not seek the Council's destruction, he continued, but we will never again accept their dominion over human destiny. We have the right to grow, to explore, and to live among the stars. No species should have the power to cage another. As he spoke, screens around Earth, the Moon, and Mars showed his face and carried his words to every human in the solar system. For the first time in 10 years, people began to cheer openly in the streets. The long deception was over. Humanity was fighting back. In the Galactic Council's chamber on their central world, alarms sounded as reports began to come in. The 7 representatives of the founding species gathered quickly, their faces and bodies showing shock and confusion. The human containment has been breached, announced a junior Ardani aide, his telepathic voice showing stress. They have retaken 4 systems simultaneously. Impossible, said the Zorian representative, his crystalline form vibrating in agitation. They were contained. Their technology was nowhere near advanced enough to challenge us. Grand Arbiter Zixtra, who had led the council for over 100 years, was silent for a long moment. Finally, his telepathic voice reached the minds of everyone in the chamber. We have gravely miscalculated, he said. Send the defense fleet. The humans must be stopped before this rebellion spreads. But the council would soon learn that stopping humanity would not be easy. The rebellion had only just begun. The fracturing 6 months passed since humanity began its campaign against the Galactic Council. The 4 reclaimed colony worlds were now fully under human control. Defense systems protected them from council attacks. Thousands of colonists had returned to rebuild what they had been forced to abandon years ago. Admiral Joseph Parker sat in his command center on Earth, looking at a large map of the galaxy. Small lights showed human-controlled worlds in blue and council worlds in red. There were far more red lights than blue, but that was about to change. Begin Operation Divide, he told his officers. The older admiral's face showed no emotion, but inside he felt proud of what humanity had accomplished so far. Director Catherine Powell nodded in agreement. She and Admiral Parker had planned this operation for years. Colonel Roberts, you may proceed, she said to the woman standing nearby. Colonel, Nancy Roberts was the head of Earth's intelligence agents. She was 50 years old with gray hair and brown eyes that could look kind or hard depending on her mood. For the past 6 months, her agents had gathered information about conflicts between the different council species. My teams are in position, she said. We have agents on 12 key worlds. The plan was simple but clever. Instead of attacking the Council directly, humans would turn the alien species against each other. They would use the old conflicts and rivalries that existed long before humans entered space. Nancy's first target was the relationship between the Ardani and the Petrovi. The Petrovi were beings made of living stone with rough, gray skin. They had been part of the Council for thousands of years, but they had never fully trusted the telepathic Ardani. A human agent on the Petrovi homeworld delivered secret files to their leaders. These files contained proof that the Ardani had been reading Petrovi minds during council meetings for centuries. The Petrovi were furious when they saw this evidence. At the same time, another agent reminded the Vox Collective about their historical enslavement by the Zorians. The gaseous beings had been forced to work in Zorian crystal mines long ago. The wounds of this history had never fully healed. The Petrovi have withdrawn their fleet from the Council Defense Force, reported an officer to Admiral Parker 3 days later. And the Vox Collective is demanding a formal apology from the Zorians for past wrongs. Joseph smiled slightly. Good. Now for Phase 2. Phase 2 involved reaching out to species who were not part of the Council. Captain Andrew Lewis commanded the diplomatic vessel Olive Branch. It was not a warship but carried strong defenses. Andrew was a skilled diplomat who had studied alien cultures for 20 years. His first meeting was with the Krell, a warrior, species with tough, leathery skin and 4 arms. The Council had limited their expansion for centuries. The Council claims they restricted your growth to maintain peace, Andrew told the Krell leader in his throne room. But the truth is they feared your strength. The Krell leader, a massive being named Grok, growled deep in his throat. We have long suspected this. What do humans offer instead? Alliance, Andrew said simply. Equal standing. Freedom to grow as you choose, so long as you don't threaten others. Similar meetings happened with the Mintar, small but intelligent, beings who excelled at building and trade, and the newly contacted Draxians who possessed powerful energy technology. All 3 species had suffered under Council restrictions in different ways. All 3 found common cause with humanity. While diplomats worked, Earth scientists continued to advance human technology. Dr. Patricia Johnson led a team that studied captured Ardani telepathic devices. She was a brilliant neurologist with dark skin and sharp features. We've adapted their technology, she explained to Director Powell during a demonstration. This headband prevents telepathic intrusion. It shields human minds completely. Catherine put on the small device. Will this work against all Ardani? Patricia nodded. Even their strongest telepaths can't break through. We've tested it extensively. At the same time, engineer Robert Allen completed a massive project around the planet Mercury. Robert was a quiet man with glasses who spoke little but thought deeply. His team had built a partial Dyson swarm, thousands of solar collectors that captured the sun's energy. The energy output exceeds that of any single Council world, he reported. We can power all our ships, colonies, and weapons without limitation. 3 months into Operation Divide, the Council began to fracture along its ancient fault lines. 3 of the 7 founding species withdrew from unified action against Earth. Without their support, the Council's military response was weakened and confused. Human expansion accelerated. In a series of quick operations, Earth forces reclaimed 27 more worlds. Some had been human colonies before the exile. Others were new worlds that had never been settled by any species. The Council is calling for peace talks, reported Admiral Parker to President Russell during a secure meeting. Their unity is broken. They can no longer present a single front against us. President Russell considered this news carefully. He had aged visibly in the past 9 months, his face showing new lines of worry. Is this a trick? A way to buy time? Catherine Powell shook her head. Our intelligence suggests it's genuine. At least 4 Council species want to end this conflict. They've realized they can't stop us, and they fear what will happen if they continue to try. What about the others? Asked the president. The Zorians still want to fight, Catherine said. They're the most aggressive of the founding species, but even they are beginning to see that the situation has changed. The president nodded slowly. Very well. We'll meet with them. But we negotiate from strength, not weakness. A meeting was arranged on Kaito Station, a neutral trading hub far from both Earth and the Council homeworlds. Admiral Parker represented humanity, while the Zorian ambassador represented what remained of the unified council. The two met in a plain room with a single table between them. The Zorian's crystal body glowed with shifting colors of blue and red, showing its mixed emotions. This conflict benefits no one, the Zorian said. Its voice came from vibrations in its crystal form. Too much has been destroyed already. Joseph Parker's face remained calm. A conflict your council started when you sentenced humanity to confinement. We are merely responding to that unjust verdict. The Zorian's colors darkened. What do humans truly want? To destroy the council completely? To rule the galaxy yourselves? Joseph shook his head. A seat at the table, equal standing among the species of this galaxy, and a guarantee that no species will ever threaten human autonomy again. The Zorian was silent for a long moment, its colors shifting slowly. The council has stood for 50,000 years. Change does not come easily to such an old institution. Change has come whether you welcome it or not, Joseph replied. The question is whether the council will adapt or be left behind. As the meeting continued, ships from Earth's new allies, the Krell, the Mintar, and the Draxians, arrived at the station. Their presence sent a clear message. Humanity was not alone in wanting change. The Zorian ambassador saw these ships on the station's monitors. Its colors shifted to a deep blue that showed understanding. The balance of power had shifted. The old order was ending. A new one was beginning, and humanity would have a central role in whatever came next. A new order 3 years passed since humanity broke free from their exile. The galaxy had changed greatly in this short time. The once mighty Galactic Council no longer existed in its old form. In its place stood something new, something different, something better. Grand Arbiter Zixtra of the Ardani had ruled the council for more than 100 years. Now he stood before the other council members as they voted to remove him from power. His purple skin had paled with age and stress, and his black eyes showed his defeat. "You have led us to ruin," said the Petrovi representative, his stone body rumbling with anger. "The humans have exposed your secret mind reading. You betrayed our trust." "I acted for the good of all," Zixtra replied, but few believed him anymore. The aye vote was quick. Zixtra was removed from power. The old council had already split into 3 groups. The traditionalists still wanted to fight humans and return to the old ways. The reformists sought peace and a new relationship with humanity. The separatists wanted nothing to do with galactic politics at all. Admiral Susan Cooper walked through the halls of the new council chamber on Kaito Station. At 65 years old, her hair was fully white now, but she stood straight and tall. She had been promoted to Fleet Admiral after Joseph Parker died during the Battle of Rigel, giving his life to save 3 human ships. The chamber she entered looked very different from the old council room. Gone was the circle of high chairs, where alien leaders had looked down on others. Instead, a large round table filled the center of the room. All seats were the same height. No species sat above another. Susan took her place at the table as Earth's representative. Around her sat beings from 20 different species. Some were former council members. Others were new allies like the Krell and Mintar. Still others were species that had never before had a voice in galactic matters. "This gathering will come to order," said the Draxian moderator, a tall being with blue skin who had been chosen to lead this meeting. Unlike the old council with its permanent leader, the new group would have rotating leadership. Susan looked around the table at the faces and forms of so many different beings. 3 years ago, most of them had been enemies or strangers. Now, they gathered as equals to build something new. When it was her turn to speak, Susan stood. "Humanity does not seek dominion over others," she said clearly, "but neither will we accept subjugation. The old council failed because it feared difference rather than embracing it. It sought control rather than cooperation. The Zorian representative's crystal body flickered with colors that showed doubt. Pretty words, Admiral Cooper, but humans have shown great power and aggression these past 3 years. Why should we believe you won't become the new tyrants? Susan nodded, understanding the fear. A fair question. That is why the document before you limits the power of all species, including humans. No single group can make decisions for all. Leadership rotates. All have a voice. The strong help the weak rather than controlling them. The document she mentioned was called the Galactic Concordat. It had taken 2 years to write, with input from all 20 species present. Its rules were simple but powerful. Non-interference, in internal species development, open technological exchange, mutual defense, and rotating leadership. After much discussion, the vote was held. One by one, each representative pressed their hand, claw, tentacle, or other appendage to the glowing panel before them. The final vote was 18 in favor, 2 abstaining, and none against. The Galactic Concordat was approved. Susan felt a moment of deep satisfaction. The journey from exile to this moment had been long and hard. Many good people had died along the way, including her friend Joseph Parker. But humanity had not only survived, they had helped create something better than what came before. Back. On Earth, a ceremony honored those who had been lost. President Russell, now in his final year of office, stood before a large memorial wall with thousands of names. At the center were the crew of the ship Defiance, who had held the line at Alpha Centauri against overwhelming odds during the 2nd year of fighting. They gave their lives so that humanity could live free among the stars, the president said to the gathered crowd. We honor their sacrifice by building a galaxy worthy of that price. Catherine Powell stood in the crowd, watching silently. At 67, she had retired from her position as Director of Earth Intelligence. Her plan had worked better than anyone could have expected, but the cost had been high. Friends had died. Worlds had burned. She wondered if it could have happened any other way. After the ceremony, she walked slowly through a large shipyard in Earth orbit. Workers moved around her, building new vessels. But these were different from the warships of recent years. The largest was called the Reconciliation, a massive ship designed primarily for exploration and diplomacy. Captain Laura Miller walked beside Catherine, showing her the new vessel. Laura had commanded the Vengeance during the first strike, against the Council monitoring station. Now she would lead a very different mission. She's beautiful, Catherine said, looking up at the huge ship. What's her purpose? Exploration, Laura replied. The Concordat has opened up regions of space the Council kept restricted. There are whole sectors no one has visited in thousands of years. Catherine smiled slightly. From warships to exploration vessels in just 3 years. We've come a long way. Laura nodded. The ship has strong defenses, of course. We haven't forgotten the lessons of the past. But its main purpose is to discover, not to conquer. Later that day, Laura stood on the bridge of the Reconciliation as final preparations were made for its first journey. Her first officer, Commander Kevin Brown, stood beside her. He was young and eager, having joined Earth's fleet after the exile ended. Where to, Captain? Kevin asked as the massive engines hummed to life. Laura looked out at the stars visible through the large viewing window. They no longer seemed threatening or forbidden. They were full of possibility, full of promise. Everywhere, she replied, with a smile. We've earned our place among them. At that same moment on the Reformed Council station, Catherine Powell met with the new Grand Mediator, a young Ardani named Tirleth. Unlike the old Council leaders, Tirleth had supported peace with humans from the beginning. They stood in an observation lounge watching ships of many species pass by the large windows. Human vessels flew alongside Krell warships and Mintar trading craft. Even some Zorian ships were present, their crystal hulls reflecting the light of distant stars. Was it always your plan? Tirleth asked, his telepathic voice gentle in Catherine's mind. To not just break free, but to remake the galaxy's order? Catherine smiled slightly. The young Ardani reminded her of herself many years ago, before the exile had changed everything. Let's just say humanity has always excelled at turning exile into opportunity. Tirleth's telepathic impression showed something like respect mixed with caution. The next century will be interesting with humans taking such an active role in galactic affairs. That, Catherine agreed, watching the ships of a dozen species pass by the window, is something we can both count on. As the Reconciliation departed Earth on its mission of exploration, its lights joined the thousands of others moving through the darkness of space. Humanity had been exiled, then fought their way back, and finally helped create a new and better order. The journey had been difficult and painful, but the result was worth the cost. The stars belonged to everyone now, and humanity had finally taken its rightful place among them.